Robert Allen, the only one of the four men involved in the killing of Xxxtentacion to ever walk free, stepped out of prison on October 26, 2023. After serving just under 5 years, his release immediately reignited a storm of controversy, anger, and speculation. Not long after, rumors began circulating online claiming he had been kidnapped, whispers of revenge, of unfinished business, of consequences finally catching up.
As he grabbed the bag, shots are fired.
Who shoots the shots that are fired?
Michael Boatwright.
But what actually happened? In this video, we're breaking down the full story, from the moment everything began to the murder itself, the men behind it, and the deal that ultimately allowed one of them to walk away. June 18, 2018. A hot afternoon in Deerfield Beach, Florida. Xxxtentacion, born José Dwayne Ricardo Onfroy, was just 20 years old. At the height of his fame, his career was exploding, his influence growing by the day. But on that afternoon, none of that mattered. Earlier that same day, X had walked into a Bank of America and withdrawn approximately $50,000 in cash. He placed the money inside a Louis Vuitton bag, something that, unknowingly, would soon make him a target. At around 3:30 p.m., he arrived at Riva Motorsports, a motorcycle dealership, accompanied by his step-uncle Leonard Kerr. They were there for something simple, to look at bikes, to spend money, to enjoy a normal day. There was no security, no warning, no reason to believe anything was wrong. He wasn't armed, he wasn't hiding, he had no idea he was being watched. At that exact same time, sitting in the same parking lot, was a rented black Dodge Journey SUV. Inside were 4 men. Dedrick Williams, known as Chucky, the ringleader and driver. Michael Boatwright, the shooter. Trayvon Newsome, the second gunman. And Robert Allen, also known as Big Rob. All 4 had connections to a South Florida street gang tied to Zoe Pound, an organization with a long history of drug trafficking, robberies, and violence across multiple counties. But here's what makes this case even chilling. They weren't looking for X. That day, their plan was simple: drive around South Florida, armed, and find anyone they could rob, a random target, a crime of opportunity. And then, they saw him. Williams spotted the BMW i8 parked outside Riva Motorsports. He recognized it. Months earlier, he had seen that exact car at a probation office, and X had been there too. Right there in the SUV, Williams pulled out his phone and opened Instagram. He began cross-checking the car in front of them with the one posted on X's account. Everything matched. The car, the location, the timing. It was him. At that moment, everything changed. Williams and Allen stepped out of the SUV and walked inside the store. They passed right by X as he browsed, feet away, close enough to see him clearly, close enough to act. Instead, they lingered, watching, waiting.
Then they walked up to the counter and bought 2 black neoprene masks while X was still inside the store. Security cameras captured everything. Every step, every movement, every decision. They walked back outside and returned to the SUV. And that's when, for a brief moment, things almost stopped. Allen spoke up. He told them it was a bad idea. He knew they had been caught on camera. He understood what that meant: identification, evidence, arrest. He said they were going to get caught. For a second, there was hesitation. Even Boatwright and Newsome weren't fully convinced. But then Williams pushed back. He asked them one simple question. "Y'all scared?" That was all it took. Boatwright decided they were going through with it. Newsome agreed. The plan was back on. Allen refused to get out of the car, not because he objected to the robbery, but because he knew he was already on camera. So roles were set. Boatwright and Newsome would approach on foot. Williams would drive. Allen would stay inside and watch. And then they waited. 8 minutes, 35 seconds, sitting in silence, preparing, loading weapons, putting on masks. Every second of that wait was captured on surveillance footage. A still SUV in a quiet parking lot, holding a decision that was about to end a life. When X and Leonard Kerr walked out of the store and got into the BMW, everything moved at once. Williams slammed the gas and blocked the exit. Boatwright and Newsome jumped out, fast, precise, committed. Boatwright held a short-barreled .222 caliber rifle. Newsome had a .222 semi-automatic pistol, both wearing masks.
Boatwright stepped to the driver's side. He aimed directly through the window. Newsome rushed in, trying to rip the gold chain from X's neck, but couldn't get it off. Inside the car, Leonard Kerr panicked. He opened the passenger door and ran. Newsome moved around to the other side, reached in and grabbed the Louis Vuitton bag from the back seat. $50,000. The robbery was complete. But it didn't end there. X was still alive, still sitting in the driver's seat, unarmed, no fight left, no escape. Boatwright stepped back, raised the rifle, and fired. 3 shots. 2 entered X's neck at a downward angle, damaging his lung, grazing his aorta. Critical. Fatal. He was rushed to Broward Health North. For a brief moment, paramedics managed to restore a pulse, but it didn't last. At 4:51 p.m., Xxxtentacion was pronounced dead. No drugs, no alcohol, just a robbery that turned into a killing. And just like that, the 4 men drove away, leaving behind one of the most shocking murders in modern hip-hop history. But not because he was morally opposed to what was about to happen. Robert Allen stayed in that car because he calculated something very simple.
And who does he shoot? Where does he shoot him from? What side of the car?
His face was already on camera, and stepping out would only make things worse for him.
What are they saying?
Chuck is telling them to get him, basically.
We should get him to rob him.
Yeah, get him, rob him.
That decision, calculated, self-preserving, would later become the foundation of his entire defense. What most people don't realize is this: Allen's version of events didn't suddenly appear after a deal was offered. It started before any agreement existed, before lawyers negotiated, before prosecutors made promises, before anything was on the table. In interrogation rooms, speaking to detectives, Allen already knew the evidence was closing in. He knew the cameras had him. He knew the timeline was locked. And so his first move was to start telling the story. But not just any story, a very specific one. He positioned himself as the reluctant participant, the one who raised concerns, the one who warned they would get caught, the one who stayed in the car, the one who got less money. And here's the part that matters most. That same story, word for word in substance, stayed consistent for 5 years, from 2018 all the way to the courtroom in 2023. Through cross-examinations, through pressure, through attacks from defense attorneys trying to break him. That consistency is exactly why the jury believed him. Not because he was innocent, but because his version never changed. And this is where public anger starts to collide with how the legal system actually works, because without Robert Allen, there was a missing piece. The surveillance footage showed movement, the forensics proved presence, the DNA confirmed involvement, but none of that could answer the most critical questions. What was said inside that car? Who agreed to what? Who decided to move forward? Who took which role? What happened after the shooting? Allen was the only person who could fill that gap, the only one inside that SUV willing to speak under oath, the only one who explained the internal mechanics of the crime. And that cooperation changed everything. It mattered to the prosecution, it mattered to the judge, and importantly, it mattered to X's family, who were consulted on the plea deal and did not oppose it. But none of that erases what Allen actually did, because the facts don't change. He sat in that car. He knew what was about to happen. He stayed, he watched, he rode away after the shooting. He stood in that house as the money was counted, and he took $5,000 from it. Money taken from a man who had just been killed. At his sentencing in May 2023, Allen stood in court and said, "If I have to die in prison, then so be it. I know the risk I was taking. Let justice be served. Please forgive me." The judge believed those words. He called them sincere. 17 months later, Allen walked free. Now compare that to the men he testified against.
I'm not this evil person that everybody think I am.
In November 2024, Dedrick Williams' legal team tried to reopen the case by introducing a new angle, attempting to point toward Drake as an alternate suspect. The argument leaned on the well-known online tension between X and Drake. But this wasn't new. That same theory had already been shut down during the trial. Drake had been subpoenaed, he appeared, no evidence linked him to the crime, and he was dismissed. Still, the defense tried. Using social media posts, old narratives, anything that could create doubt. But as of 2026, nothing changed. The convictions still stand. Trayvon Newsome is serving life in Florida State Prison. And the evidence against him went beyond presence. Text messages recovered from his phone revealed conversations about burying part of the stolen money, references to hidden cash, amounts like $8,000, and fear of getting life. He got exactly that. During the trial, tensions exploded behind the scenes. In courthouse holding cells, Newsome reportedly screamed at Allen, calling him a snitch, a sellout, accusing him of working with police. That moment spread everywhere. It became one of the most talked about exchanges of the entire case. And then there's Michael Boatwright, the shooter. 2 life sentences, plus 30 years. Every piece of evidence pointed at him. DNA, ballistics, fingerprints, surveillance, eyewitness testimony. But what made Boatwright stand out wasn't just what he did, it was how he acted afterward. When the jury read the verdict on March 20th, 2023, Boatwright stood in court in handcuffs, turned toward X's family, and blew them a kiss. That moment was captured on camera, clipped, posted, and within hours, it was everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. It became the image people couldn't forget. Not the crime, not the evidence, but the attitude. Even after sentencing, he didn't stop. From inside prison, using a contraband phone, Boatwright continued posting. At one point, he reacted with laughing emojis to a video of X's young son paying tribute to his father. The backlash was immediate. X's family spoke out. Fans demanded action. Authorities were notified. And still, he kept posting. In October 2024, another post surfaced, a message that made his position clear. "I'm not sorry for nothing I did." No denial, no explanation, no remorse. Just a statement. And that's what makes this case hit so hard. Because nothing about his behavior changed. Not before the crime, not during, not after. The same pattern repeated itself. Within hours of the murder, the group was already recording videos, smiling, dancing, holding stacks of cash. Footage later shown to the jury, used as evidence, proof not just of guilt, but of mindset. Boatwright's own phone told the rest of the story. Searches about X, messages referencing money, location data placing him exactly at the scene, Bluetooth connections tying his device to the getaway vehicle. And then, the physical evidence sealed it. DNA on the masks, fingerprints on the car, missing bullets matching the shots fired. The case didn't rely on one piece. It was a wall, layer after layer, until there was nowhere left to go. After more than 27 hours of deliberation, the jury came back unanimous. Every count, every defendant. And in the end, the judge said something that defined the entire case. This crime didn't just end one life, it ended 5. Xxxtentacion and the 4 men in that car. Because as of today, 3 of them will never walk free again. And the 4th lives with that decision for the rest of his life. Xxxtentacion's son, Xxxtentacion'S, was born on January 26, 2019, 7 months after his father was killed in that parking lot. He never got to meet him, never got to hear his voice in real life, never got to experience what it meant to grow up with him. Today, he's 6 years old enough to see videos, old enough to recognize faces, old enough to ask questions. And somewhere in that process, he learns the truth, that his father was taken in broad daylight over money by people who didn't even plan to target him. 3 of those men will spend the rest of their lives behind prison walls. No release, no second chance.
No way back. And the 4th? The one who stayed in the car, the one who watched everything unfold, he's out. Driving trucks across state lines, living under supervision, checking in with a probation officer every 6 weeks, trying to build something resembling a normal life, while carrying a past that the internet refuses to forget. Because the truth is, this story never really ended. Every time his name trends, every time a clip resurfaces, every time a thumbnail goes viral, the same question comes back. How is he free? And that question is what keeps this case alive. Not new evidence, not new crimes, but unfinished emotions. Because for a lot of people, justice doesn't feel complete. And maybe it never will, because no sentence, no verdict, no courtroom decision can undo what happened that day. A 20-year-old lost his life, a child grew up without a father, and 4 decisions made in under 10 minutes changed everything forever. As of today, Robert Allen is still alive, still on probation, still moving forward, and the world is still watching. So what do you think? Did the system get it right, or is this one of those cases that will always feel unfinished? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more deep breakdowns like this, click one of the videos on your screen.